could you explain a little bit the difference between between ODI and customer journey mapping, which is a very common methodology? So what would you say, what is the difference between doing job mapping in outcome-driven innovation and creating a customer journey map? Could you relate to that for us, please?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Oliver, and we actually get this asked a lot. And
yeah, we do, don't we?
Well, let's start with the commonalities first.
Yeah.
Which maybe triggers always this question. It's well, both depict some kind of a process, right? The process with steps. And well, you can create this kind of job map as well as the customer journey map at very different flight levels. So really down to very close to the product or service, like a buying journey or a consumption chain job map for purchasing a product, up to very high levels, like a journey over therapy of a chronic disease or a job map for retain long-term health. When living with a chronic disease. So from that perspective, and that's usually starts this conversation, a job map and a customer journey map is pretty similar. However, there are some really, really important differences. So the journey map is focused on the experiences and the touch points with solutions. So usually with products or services or whatever a company does for its customers, whereas the job map is very goal and needs orientated and solution agnostic. So it's not about interacting with solutions and the touch points. It is about what are the customers trying to get done step by step without considering what kind of solutions they are currently using. The journey map also depicts the as-is process. So actually, well, how it is today, with all the loops and redos and all of this back and forth that you can imagine, whereas the job map shows the ideal process to get a job done, without these kind of, loops and redos and these kind of things. So it's also a huge and important difference. It shows how the job should be get done to be most efficient and effective. The journey maps, they can also change quite rapidly, since they are so focused on the solutions. Well, if the solution changes, probably the journey looks totally different. Just think about a buying journey where you replace an on-site sales by an online channel. And then, there are totally different touch points, totally different experiences, totally different steps to go through. So due to the focus on interactions with solutions, journey maps might change quite rapidly when there are new solutions, whereas the job map stays constant over time. So job map is solution agnostic. So there are no solutions in there, and a new solution only changes how well the customer gets the job done, but not the job itself and not the job steps themselves. So the job map is not so perishable, if you want to call it like that, over time, as the needs don't really change. Only the priorities do. And both the job map and the customer journey are actually heavily drawing on qualitative research, right? But usually journey mapping does not always or barely include quantitative research, whereas the job map is usually quantified. So to get to know where are the priorities to set, so where are the opportunities the biggest. So the question is, well, is one better than the other? And the question is no, they just serve totally different purposes. So a journey map is great for immersion. So to dive deep into the as-is situation, to understand what the touch points are, what the emotional experience of customers are, which is especially of value, when R&D teams or marketing teams are not always in direct contact with customers on a regular basis, or do not have the job themselves. To build their empathy, right? To build them a better understanding what are the customers going through on a day-to-day basis, to build empathy for them. So it's a great tool for immersion. The job map has a different purpose. It's the best way to actually create a strategy and create new solutions because it helps to understand and not so much, the experience and these kind of things, but rather to understand where in the market, well, first of all, where is the market evolving? Yeah. So, companies that grow and are very successful, they master in helping the customer to get the entire job done. So it shows you what are the different steps, what are the different things that customers want to get done when they want to have a successful job execution. And you can now draw on this job map to actually, provide a one-stop shop solution to really go into each of these steps, provide something, and thereby inform your strategy. Where are the next areas we need to cover in our product service portfolio? It's also great to understand all the outcomes, so all the goals that customers want to achieve to get the job done better, more time efficient, more effectively. And the quantitative prioritization, so the quantitative part that follows job mapping, is actually helping you in evidence-based decision making. Yeah, so it's not just a qualitative insight that you use to draw your decisions about investing into certain areas. It's really hard data that you use to actually make your decision to show where in the job map are the biggest opportunities, which job steps are to focus or which outcomes, and thereby you can guide your strategy innovation better because you're drawing on more evidence. So it's not that one is better than the other, it's just serving totally different purposes. And as I think we will later on in the presentation, we will give with Marco De Polo also touch on that and show a few examples how this looks like. And we'll come to the conclusion, it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, that basically there is a lot of synergy between the two approaches.
Let me summarize a couple of keywords that I took away from what you said. So the job map is basically the as should be a depiction of a job to be done, or of a of what customers want to achieve, and the journey map is like the as is depiction of how customers try to get something done with using solutions and things like that. Another point that I liked very much is your vocabulary of non-perishable. So the job maps tend to be non-perishable, and while on the other hand, customer journey maps, they tend to change with the solutions that people use.